Hi, welcome to Ask the Manager. We have one of my former classmates with us today, Michael Vescere, and he is a town meeting member in Precinct 5. And Michael's been in town for years.
1960.
And we're glad to have you here today.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So
Appreciate you asking me.
We'll let you start with the first question.
Okay, the first question is probably going to be the most important question of all. I think it's the biggest concern going on in town right now, and that's Triple E. Where are we right now? I know I saw the map and where they've sprayed and where they haven't sprayed. I know they've done aerial spraying, they're doing truck spraying. Where are we right now on that?
Yeah, so first and foremost, we're in very, very close communications with the state. And the state is the entity that's out both trapping mosquitoes and is charged with getting the intake from hospitals whenever there's veterinary clinics, whenever any human or other animal is determined to have the virus. And we speak with them through our partners at the Central Mass Regional Public Health Alliance on a daily basis. They're in constant communications with their latest results. So, you know, the initial indication, or when we were raised to critical, came from a human case in Grafton. And but even at that time, there had not been any. There still hasn't any human cases in Shrewsbury, thank goodness. But there wasn't even any mosquitoes that had been trapped in Shrewsbury that had the virus in it. But since then, about 2 weeks ago now, there was several mosquitoes that were trapped in Shrewsbury that had the virus, and that was after the aerial spraying. Okay. So. We moved to working with the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project and brought in the targeted ground spraying. That is all now complete. All school campuses have been sprayed, in the targeted areas with the community where the mosquitoes were found were sprayed. And it looks like from the maps updated last night, which was September 11th, that about 2/3 of the town has received aerial spraying from this second round of aerial spraying. We're hopeful that if they would continue from the north-south pattern that it looks like the planes flew last night, that the rest of the community would be sprayed this evening. But it is a very large area, now 57 communities that they're spraying in this round, and 550,000 acres of land that are being sprayed. So it's quite a big area. And they're using 2 or 3 aircraft to do that.
So the state is the one that's guiding this?
That is correct.
The whole thing. Now, what about the mosquito control group that you were talking about? We are part of that group?
That's correct.
So we pay a fee every year to be part of that group?
Yep, so there's 2 entities at the State Department of Public Health that is receiving the intake and doing the mosquito trapping, and then there's the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture is responsible for the implementation of the pesticide. And then also the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project is a part of the Department of Agriculture. So
Okay.
We're fortunate John LeBeau is the commissioner of the Department of Agriculture. So, you know, that's kept him at more arm's length than this, but he's been, you know, I've had some good conversations with John to get background on, you know, the spraying that they did on the Cape and everything. But yeah, so on the cherry sheet every year, there's a deduct for that, and residents, in any year can call the Central Mass Mosquito Control Project and have their own property sprayed.
For a cost?
No, it's free.
For free?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
So we don't need to increase the budget for that for next year? We're going to, whatever it costs us this year is going to cost us next year?
Pretty much, and yeah, unless it goes up across the board, you know, across the state. The state is funding all the aerial spraying, very, very expensive, but obviously it's something that's critical at this time.
Do you think that they're going to maybe be a little more proactive next year? Since, I mean, it really went through the whole eastern part of the state.
I think it's interesting. So the data that I've seen about the historic trend on this is that there's, you know, like a 3-year cycle, a 2-year lull, and a 1-year spike, and a 2-year lull. So I don't know. I haven't had any conversations with anyone about this. I know other states are much more aggressive with just general mosquito spraying, as you get further south.
Right.
They do a lot more routine spraying. I don't know if that will be in the state's plans for next year or not. I just don't know.
What location were the mosquitoes found that were positive?
I can't disclose.
You can't disclose. So, which brings me to the next thing.
Yeah.
When you look at the map,
Yeah.
why don't they just spray all of Shrewsbury? Why do they stop on
Yeah.
Street X?
Now we are. Now the state is covering the entire. They did it because they're very targeted with their spraying, and they're not trying to oversupply the pesticides. And whenever the whenever the original spraying went, we had heard that there's several significant swamplands and bodies of water in the area that they were really trying to target. Not open bodies of water like ponds or lakes or Lake Consigman, those are all excluded, but more marshy, swamplands where mosquitoes habitate. So,
So were they found in a swampy area?
yes, they were.
Okay.
Good mosquito habitat.
There's a lot, but there are a lot of swampy areas in Shrewsbury. That doesn't narrow it down at all. Now, the school also went into basically, the kids aren't out.
Sure. Yep.
Because I live right across from Floral Street School,
Okay.
and it's very quiet right now. And I got the Little Red Schoolhouse 2 houses
Yeah,
away,
yeah.
and you always heard kids all the time, and it is just
It's a happy sound.
Yeah.
the kids. Yes,
Yeah.
it really is. They're laughing and giggling. They have
Yeah.
a great time.
Yeah.
And
And it's quiet.
Yeah,
it's
so
very, very quiet.
the Board of Health hasn't, made any formal mandates, although they certainly have the authority to, make it, mandate that there's no public or private outdoor activities from dusk to dawn. They haven't gone that far, but we've strongly encouraged everyone to do that. And of course, our partners in the schools have all done that, private schools and public schools. And I think there's a little more precaution even during cloudy days and daytime. Everyone's seen mosquitoes during the day. And then especially the Sudbury case with a young child, those schools have closed all outdoor recess and everything. The Shrewsbury Public Schools haven't, it's my understanding, but everyone's certainly a lot more cautious these.
Well, they need to be. I mean, there's no vaccine for this.
No, yeah, very.
None.
Well, I heard on TV, and I don't know what's factual and what isn't, that there was one scientist speaking about how they could have a vaccine, and then he said it would be impossible to vaccinate. And I'm thinking, we get the flu shot. Why would it be impossible?
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if we continue to have spikes that you'll see vaccine availability come around, because I think they inoculate people in the military. There's a couple of categories that do get people that do the spraying and so forth. I think they do get the vaccine. So I wouldn't be surprised. And, to me, one person with EEE is a risk. But we've had,
yes.
I've lost count now on how many we've had in this state.
I believe there's 7.
7 is
Yeah.
the last number right
And
there.
it's, I mean, the way I understand it is very catastrophic for the person. It affects the brain and the spine, and
Right. And
even
so
if they survive, they're going to have a very tough life ahead of them.
it's a 50% mortality rate, plus there's all sorts of complications
Right.
that you have to be careful of too.
But we only have to wait, another 4 weeks? Hopefully
Hopefully.
we'll get a killing frost.
Who would want a killing
I
frost?
know.
But we
We
do.
The
do.
first year,
We
yeah.
need one. We really do need one. Okay, that's great information.
Before you go any further, I don't
ahead.
want to forget, we had, I don't know if you enjoyed it, but we had the best show on the lake last
I had a lot of
month.
fun.
It was
yeah.
a good show.
It was so enjoyable to be on the lake. It was so enjoyable to see all the homes and how things have evolved over the years. And it was just so beautiful.
Yep.
And then to be able to see an eagle, I mean, it was really
Wow.
great. But so I just want to thank again Peter Collins and Michael Liberty for having us on Michael's boat and
Yeah, we had a lot of good
setting it up.
feedback.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that was great. So here we are back in the studio.
Oh, that's okay too.
Yes.
Being on the lake, it looked like you guys had a good time.
And I shouldn't forget, we did also have a camera person on that boat. That
We did?
is always awesome. And I forgot his name. I think it's Mark Sarah. Oh yeah, that's the name, Mark Sarah. But he's been great too.
Always.
Next topic, the Allen Farm. Is it ever going to get developed? I look at the Allen Farm when it was presented to us how many years ago. I figured that was my worst vote as a town meeting member, 30 years. I wish I didn't vote for that.
Really?
I really do.
Because-
Nothing's happened. I really was under the impression that it would get developed.
I
It didn't
actually
happen.
thought it would be developed quickly,
Yes.
and I was very surprised that it wasn't. But then on the other hand, I look at it as the town owns that property, and we should be glad we own that property because there is something that will be purposeful for that.
But when are we going to get our money back?
Ask this guy.
I am.
So we've received some proposals recently that the Shrewsbury Development Corporation, is actually currently deliberating on right now. Whether they come to fruition or not, it's really up to them to receive development proposals, compare them against their charge as to what the legislation that was enacted requires them to fulfill in having the property developed, and then bring it to the Board of Selectmen, and then ultimately it's going to have to go back to town meeting for the development that would occur. I am encouraged because we have had some full site potential and some partial site potential. I think the most concrete thing right now is, we continue to inch along in making the site more and more attractive to developers. We've applied for a Mass Works grant of $3.3 million for the construction of a north roadway. There's a lot of creative developers and, have a lot of foresight, but, on a parcel like that, there's often, especially when it's under town ownership, we got to be a good leader and make it as attractive as possible. And sewer was brought to the site through a grant, and now we're seeking other funding to develop the road. They've just revised the master plan for the property because over that period of time, environmental conditions as far as wetlands, et cetera, have changed. So I know it's been frustrating, but it's
is.
interesting. It's interesting to hear your perspective, because a lot of people do have different perspective. Many people are like, "That's okay, just let it sit there."
I just want it
Or-
developed. And
yeah.
I know it's probably once Route 20 starts to get developed, there's a better chance of this getting developed. I'm not sure what the plans are for Route 20, who's going to be moving in, who's not going to be moving in. I imagine a lot of those trucking companies will slowly leave. We'll get other types of development down there, but.
I think that's our hope, and not to make any businesses leave, but we
No.
just think there's a better and higher use than parking empty C-box containers and,
Right.
and other, very low intensity use from level of jobs and things in that area. But I do agree with you. I think, as the corridor is developed more and more, it will become kind of a no-brainer to develop. But we are moving forward with our sewer work in Route 20. It'll begin, in the spring. We're actually going to start the construction of our new pump station at the intersection of Lake Street and Route 20 within the next few weeks, and that will actually be ready and available, which will aid in the development of the Edgemere Drive-In site.
Are they
for
giving
the
us any
spring.
money to help with that?
So we, not for the pump station directly. They did help us negotiate an agreement with Barden Trimount, which is the asphalt company there on the corner. So
Right.
we received an easement to develop the pump station on their land at no charge. We are partnering with the developer for Lake Street intersection improvements. We did receive a Mass Works grant. We applied for 4.4 million, but we received 3.7. So we are seeking the developer to pick up the balance of that cost. And we have a cap on total engineering costs that we're allowed to pay for through a Mass Works grant. So anything that goes above and beyond that cap, we're asking the developer to contribute or to cover the cost of that as well. So it's definitely a partnership in that project. And we've been literally talking about that for over 2 years now, because I remember my first week, we had a meeting with the redevelopers in Market Basket. So it takes a long time to make a 70-acre development come to fruition. So, but it is moving.
And I think that's going to be nice when it's done. It's good, be a good use of that property. And we heard water slide. We've heard so many things over the years for that piece of property. And I think the Market Basket going in there with other retail I think it's going to help develop that area. I really do. I think it's going to spread spread down towards the Northborough line a little bit at a time.
A springboard.
I think it will be. I actually do. Market Basket is a draw. It's a big draw. I go to the one in Hudson or
Hudson.
Berlin, whatever it's called, on that line there all the time. And that's about 15, 20 minutes. I'd much rather go.
Around the corner.
Yeah, down Route 20. It'd be a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But
Trash.
Trash.
What would you like to tell us about the trash pickup?
Well, everything is kind of settled down, like we all had faith that it would. We did have a rough first 3 weeks with the new contractor, and they've stepped up and put more resources into the communities, more trucks. We still have a bottleneck or a challenge in our Thursday route because it's 30% larger than the next closest day, but it's like 50% larger than Monday as far as the number of households that we pick up.
So why don't they plan on it?
As far
Waste
as
management, if it's a challenge and they must need another truck.
yeah, they do. So Thursdays they bring in additional vehicles to make sure that we don't have it be an issue, and we have been meeting the daily deadline and demands for that route and every other route. There's always going to be hiccups here or there every day. I promise you they existed before July 1st.
they did. we know they did.
And they'll continue into the future when you're picking up trash at almost over 10,000 households on a weekly basis. There's going to be ones or twos, and we try to minimize that as much as possible. And Waste Management's sole job is to pick it up, and that's what it is that they want to do. We are actively looking at what would be the impact of smoothing the routes, right? So
that was going to be my question. I'm a Thursday person.
yeah,
Oh.
okay, yep.
Yeah, but
We're Floral Street.
But I was always early. I'm Floral Street. Floral Street, when it was prior to Waste Management, I had to have my trash out there by 7 because there's a good chance between 7 and 8 they were going to come pick up. In the last 2 weeks now, Waste Management is also now between 7 and 8 doing it.
Yeah.
So
We are going to look to smooth it out. I think the numbers run something like 2,600 households on Thursday route, and then the next largest route is just a little over 2,000 in a day. So it's a huge challenge, and I think it was organic over the 20 years that the last contractor had it, and they continue to manage. But just like that's just one aspect of the organization that we have to look to modernize when we have the opportunity. There's no reason to keep living on the ragged edge. I say we're one blown tire or simple mechanical failure away every Thursday from failing to pick up everyone's trash. It's not where we should be, because conversely, if you look at Monday, they're out of town by 2:30. So it just doesn't make sense.
That's
right?
my day.
We've got a
that's your
balance.
idea. Yeah. No, I've seen where I've gone out driving after 4 o'clock, and you can see the lamplighter still hasn't been picked up. Out of Grafton Street hasn't been picked up.
It's amazing
Yeah.
how you watch those things,
You
isn't
do.
it?
Trash is trash. We worry too much about trash. There are more important things in this world than trash. It's going to get picked up. Don't get so concerned, because it used to be picked up at noon, and now it gets picked up too. What difference does it make? As long as it gets picked up.
And how do you like those pink bags?
Yeah, the pink bags are working out. I shouldn't laugh, but we've actually had some issues with
Really?
non-pink bag company picking up pink bags, because
Oh.
people started calling us and say, well, they didn't leave me another pink bag when they took it up. So we've done some investigation with all of our 38,000 eyes, well, close to 70,000 eyes on the street. So we need to address that, and we're working with Simple Recycle and the Shrewsbury Police Department to make sure that
Can you believe it?
that doesn't continue to happen.
And I would think if you put it in a pink bag, who'd want it? Who'd want
I
it?
imagine they think they're going to get some money for it, but
They do.
They're not going to get much.
They do get money for it.
Well, Simple Recycle does, but I don't know if the...
Well, I know there are schools in the county that have clothing pickup. They collect the clothing and then
so they're trying
but
to make money
what
from
I
it.
find is that why would you give it to a company or a school to just make $100 or whatever they make when a lot of that stuff can be brought to St. Anne's and used, for people that need it. So we always have to remember, don't get lazy. Don't just use the pink bag because it's there. Still bring your things to St. Anne's.
And I think people will still do that. I think the pink bag is basically for rags. It's things that you can't use anymore.
You don't want to
Yeah.
bring,
Yeah,
you don't
it's-
want somebody else to use.
No, no,
Yeah.
that's all that's going to be for. Otherwise, people, I think, we're a community that seems to care about their neighbors. And St. Anne's is one place where they can donate their stuff and feel good.
But
that they're
I
helping.
used my pink bag last week and I was psyched. And I wanted to see if they left me a pink bag. And they did. And I was impressed
Where did they
with
leave
that.
it?
You want to know where they left it? They tied it around our basketball hoop, so it didn't blow
Okay,
away.
all right.
So I thought that was pretty nice. But I kept watching to see if it was going to get picked up, and they did. So the system works, and there's no tipping fee. It brings the price off the tipping fee.
It does, and we actually make $20 a ton.
So you make $20 a ton, and it brings down the tipping fee.
So it's a $90 swing.
So you save 50 cents. But
It's 50 cents
it's
in our
for the
pocket,
town.
right? We can use
So
it someplace else.
it adds up over time.
Well, I mean, if that same ton was tipped at Wheelabrator, it would cost us $70. So it's a $90 swing in the
Oh,
right
okay.
direction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because if you assume most of those rags and other materials that people didn't want were in the blue bags, and now they're not.
So how many tons have we?
I
You
don't know.
told us last
I
time.
did, yeah. I
And
can't
I was
remember
impressed
at
that you
this
knew
time.
that,
Yep,
but that
yep,
was new. You had to pay attention.
Yep. Yeah.
But, yeah.
We did make some money.
So that's good.
It is. Next, Fairlawn, when I talk about development. My mother worked for King's umpteen years ago, which was one of the original
Was great.
stores in that shopping center. Now we got Reliant over there, and still nothing else. Then you look at the old Spags property. I'm a Spags guy. And the trees are all growing back now. They're going to be as tall as they were
That's so funny.
when they were cut down.
People were upset that the trees
Yeah.
got cut down, and
Yeah.
they're back.
Yeah, it looks like Woodhall Lodge is moving maybe to the other Maple Ave now.
Oh.
It looked like they were doing some work on Maple Ave, so I wasn't sure what was going on there. But I mean, town meeting, we were presented a big project that was going to happen over there, and it's fizzled into nothing, other than getting the Hooters and Reliant. That's all we've gotten out of this. Is there anything in the works?
Not that I'm aware of. I know that there was some interest recently, within the last few weeks, in the old manufacturing place itself.
Canada Dry?
Yeah,
Canada Dry.
I don't know. Oh, yeah.
It was
I don't-
Canada
yeah,
Dry.
I don't know what the future use would be, but I know they were doing some property cleanup around that, and they notified us that their trimming would be less than triggers bylaw and permit requirements and all that stuff to clean up the site because they had an interested potential user. But I have not seen any formal, full-scale redevelopment for that area.
That's a big building. The Canada Dry building is a big building. We use that as our warehouse for a lot of years, Spags.
Okay.
And as long as they kept the roof up, I would think it's still usable for someone to rent it out and get some. But
Well, you look at Lakeway. We have a really good neighbor at Lakeway.
right.
That Mr. Grossman participates in town activities, and the property is always clean. They're always planting flowers according to the season, and they do a good job down there, and a lot of people enjoy going there. So hopefully he's a role model for the next project.
Well, hopefully he takes after Spag a little bit, Donna.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
That's
Spag,
what it is.
Spag was one of a kind.
yeah.
And speaking of Spag, I noticed that there's still a trust with the library. How does that work? I think there was a lot of money in that trust at one time. Who decides when they use it, what they use it for? I imagine it's basically for books, but
Yeah, I'd have to see the specifics on the trust to know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, it would be held by either the trustees of the library, generally speaking, or they've now created another capital campaign-like committee that is also trying to raise additional funds, a foundation, the library foundation. So, it would clearly be gifted to the town for very defined purposes, and then, comes under the responsibility of the treasurer to manage those funds and ensure that when interest is earned on it, it's retained with those funds and that they're only expended
I
for
think
those
I
purposes.
thought it was like 400,000
Okay.
in that trust. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of books.
Yeah.
A lot of books.
And speaking of the library, Ellen Dolan is going to
yeah.
retire in April of 2020. And Ellen's only worked for the town for 15 years, but boy, has she left her mark. I mean, when you think of
Yes.
different people that have come to Shrewsbury and worked, 15 years isn't really a long time,
No.
but she's really left her mark, and she's really been a major contributor to good things happening in town.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to miss working with her. I was surprised to hear that she's going to retire, and
Good
I
luck
asked
for her.
not
I'm
to.
happy for her.
Yeah, definitely. We're excited for her for that. And actually, the trustees of the library are doing the right thing, and they're going to start their search this
Early.
fall. Yeah, start meeting in October to start to pull that together. You know, we have experience just recently from the water and sewer superintendent. Hopefully, it's not as challenging as that position, but we did our first posting in late April, and the new water and sewer superintendent, Dan Rowley, started last Friday. So it takes a while
Takes
to
time.
find the right person.
Now, who does he answer to? To you directly, or?
To the Department of Public Works
Okay.
director now.
Okay.
Yep. Now Bob reported directly to me during the
Right.
transition because we tried to keep everyone's status the same, so to speak. But it's amazing the turnover in that section of the town now. Angela Snell is still there, but she's in a new role, and Jeff Highland's in a new role. So really everyone in senior leadership at the DPW, department heads and division managers, are all at least in new positions, and only 2 former department heads remain.
I've been impressed with all our department heads over the years, especially at town meeting. When they present, I mean, they can blow you away with their knowledge. Bob was incredible. Bob was absolutely incredible with his knowledge, but the others do the same thing. I think we're very fortunate that we have such a great group of people working for our town and looking out for the town, and that's what they're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you see them at different committees, for the finance committee or the ZBA, whatever. There's always someone there, and they're keeping everybody on track, which is
Yeah, this is definitely the best team that I've ever worked with, and you
Yeah.
come to larger communities and you get that opportunity. It's one of the great joys of my job to have such a good team to work with. But you're right. I mean, they're experts in their fields, and we're very lucky to have them and do our best to keep them. They bring good ideas every day. So there's no
Right.
doubt about it.
that's good.
Yep.
Now, the police station, where are we on the, I know you're having someone was gonna look at and do an analysis for the town. Are we looking at a police station the size of the one in Leicester or bigger? The one in Leicester, they have a
Better,
beautiful,
right? Better.
no, they have a beautiful one down right
I
on
know.
Route 9, absolutely beautiful
Yeah.
police station out
Yeah.
there.
I think it will be bigger.
Told you, better.
And
Yeah.
just because of, not population, there's no strict formula, but just meeting the needs of, I worked in Leicester, of course, there was
Right.
17 sworn officers, and we have 50 here.
Right.
So just being able to provide the right space,
Right.
for office space, given the number of officers that we have on a shift, which is sometimes, 12, 15 officers, processing rooms, cells, there is a formula and everything that we need for that. As far as the process goes, we have interviewed and narrowed the list to 2 for owners project managers, which is our first step in a major project like this. So I look to start negotiating a contract next week. And then we'll bring on an architect and start really some feasibility stuff and see where we are. That's when we'll come back to the community and say, we think, it should be located here. We think this is the size that it's going to be. This is the cost estimate at this point, although we're at, 2% design or, schematic design. But I think residents should be prepared for a much larger physical space. If you look at Grafton's police station right there on 122A or 122, it's a large facility, and you get inside, and the largest space is the community room. There's not a
Right.
lot of excess space. There's a lot of processing for officers. There's a workout facility that is very important and was highly utilized. Something that this facility will likely have. But they're big buildings. A lot of employees going in and out of there on a day-to-day basis. And
So we're getting closer.
yeah, we're definitely we're moving
this-
forward. My plan is to come back to the annual town meeting next May, not necessarily with approval for additional funds, but to constitute a building committee to hopefully bring us back to next fall to ask for funds.
This
Yeah.
is a long time coming. I
Yes.
mean, we've been looking for a new police station it's always getting bumped by something else. And those other projects were important, so it's not that we did something wrong. But it's
He's keeping it a priority now.
Absolutely.
definitely. But I thought the talk was also, we were looking at the senior center at the same time.
That's true.
There's, there's over 8,000 seniors in town, I think. And I think that number's going to keep on growing. Hopefully it'll keep on growing.
Especially
sure.
with the new seniors.
Yes. So are they looking to enlarge? What do they need over there?
So I've described kind of the project as the police station is our main priority, and that's, I don't think anyone would be surprised. We need a new building. You know, it's not an expansion. You
Right.
know, we're not going to tack another floor on that building. You know,
No.
it's a start over. You know, whether it's in the same physical footprint, I'd prefer not, because then we have to relocate. But you know, it'll be a new building. But we'll walk in that direction and see where it leads us. The town hall's included and the senior center's included. It's really programmatical review. Let's look at the services that we're trying to provide. Is there some renovation spaces that can be moved or small additions? But I even think a small addition would be a little extreme, at least what's in my vision, to just make the space more usable, you know, in the senior center. And then the town hall, I really see it as an exercise of there's X number of employees there, you have X amount of space,
Right.
you need X amount of meeting rooms. We do have challenges with our meeting space. Having the benefit of the town and school being in the same building means there's a lot of activity and a lot of professional groups and associations and a lot of town teams and leadership teams that are using our 4 conference rooms within the town hall.
Right.
So maybe we can find conference room space attached to a police station and free up some additional office space in the town hall. But it's going to be more of that assessment of, are there ways to move walls and things like that,
Right.
or minor changes to the building. But the focus is the police station.
And it should be.
Yeah.
It should be. We have another town meeting coming up in the fall. What's going to be on the warrant articles? Are there any home rule petitions, or strictly going to be what the town is presenting this time?
Citizens petitions, you
Right.
mean? So the deadline for citizens petition is this coming Tuesday, the 17th. So I haven't received any yet. I presented a draft warrant to the Board of Selectmen at their meeting on Tuesday, and there were 14 articles that were presented.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little more than a normal fall, but there were 3 zoning articles, 2 drainage easements, and then we'll look to appropriate money that we receive from Uber and Lyft on that new revenue stream into some mobility projects. There's consideration for additional funding for Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services, carryover historic preservation conversation from last spring. This is all just draft, the warrant's not signed yet. And then some 3 or 4 financial articles at the beginning to, we still need to move money from water because it was still a Schedule A receipt in FY19, so that'll be the last year that we have to do that. Make some other minor tweaks to the budget at this point. So
A one-nighter then?
that's my hope. Of
Shrewsbury
course,
Youth-
sometimes I hope the spring's one night, but then
That's not,
It's
I
never going
think
to
it
happen.
happened one year in the 30-plus years. that-
I don't ever
yeah.
remember being one
Yeah,
night.
it was many moons ago. Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services. They're an independent organization. The people that fundraise for that do a phenomenal job. And they've, over the years, held tight to the town only giving a limited amount of funding. And they've done a phenomenal job. I don't want anybody to misinterpret what I'm saying. But should the town be in the business of social service is my first question. And the second part of that is if we don't have direct input into their funding and where their funding goes, how far and how deep should we be into their budget?
So I think we should be there. I do think we should be funding it. It's funny because I've had a conversation with some fellow town managers, and for instance, Auburn. I don't know. making it harder on myself, but Auburn provides their not Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services, Auburn Youth and Family Services equivalent office space in $120,000 a year. So we provide Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services $100 in this current fiscal year. So I think the model's out there. Westboro's, the thought always has been, if you look at Westboro is their Youth and Family Services equivalent is a department of the town. So I think we have a good model as far as being outsourced, being nimble, being able to hire clinicians and things like that in a non-government and a private sector setting. So that provides advantage as far as billing and insurance and all that stuff. So I think we need to continue to keep the relationship and grow the relationship. And it exists other places. They provide a lot of support to the town. They provide us with
To the school department,
to school department.
Right.
They provide
police department.
yeah, training to first responders and town staff members even this year. They help us, in times of need with housing relocation and just this kind of a safety net within the community beyond just the counseling and addiction type services that you've probably heard them talk about most recently. One of the things that I worry about is we use free cash to fund them, and free cash is not a recurring revenue source. So in order to get to the next level and enable them to hire an additional person, they want $50,000 more. Well, I don't ever want to give them $50,000 in the spring of one year and not be able to do it to the next, because that's going to significantly impact their operations. So right now, the Board of Selectmen has asked that we work on a multi-year plan, and we're doing that now. At least this fall, if only this fall, we will be commissioning a study through them to do an assessment of what our needs are, and then to come back next spring to see if we're expanding the services. But I think it would work to our advantage too, that if I don't want to be the largest donor, but if we're working closely with them and strategically with them, can have a little bit more say on how they help us at the same time.
So I just think that it's a good time to step back and say, what should the town's role be? What should the expectations be? And I also think that it gets, the lines get blurry and I have no idea who participates with Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services. But I think that we need to have clear and distinct, this is the town, this is Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services. So if you're a member of Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services, be careful how you lobby the town, so that our interests
Right.
are fair. And they do a great job, not saying they shouldn't have the money. I just think we need to be thoughtful about it.
That's true. They used to make a presentation at town meeting.
Oh, poor Michael Gregory would be so frustrated, and it seemed like we never gave them more than $30,000 or $40,000
It was the last article of the
for
night.
so many years, and it would be the last
It was always the last
article of the
article.
night, but the battle was always before town meeting,
Right.
and it was very frustrating for them. But finally, we've evolved, and we, have the ability to give a greater commitment, and they're very skillful with their fundraising. So I just think we need to be thoughtful about it.
Right. Kevin, a comment for town meeting in the spring. There were some changes in the booklet on the budget. I'm hoping that we can go back to the footnotes in the budget. I look forward to just those footnotes. They help out a lot. I go to town meeting, I think, pretty prepared. I watch all the finance committees. I watch the selectmen meetings, so I have a good idea, but a lot of people don't. The first time they open the book is at town meeting, I think, some of them.
And then they have many questions.
And they have questions. And those little footnotes, when you're saying that, okay, we're spending money to redo the gym floors at Coolidge, that's all it is. And it eliminates a question at town meeting. That people can look down and see
It does, yeah, and that's our goal. Our goal is to make sure town meeting members are as formed as possible. And we didn't expect the outrage over the elimination of the footnotes. It wasn't our intention, but yeah, we certainly.
I don't mind change, so.
Yeah, no, I know. It's funny. We had a little bit of fun in the office with the outrage over the footnotes, which is good. We need things to keep it light.
People, a lot of
Yeah.
people, they expect
Yep.
something to be there.
Yep.
And it was a little more difficult this year, even the budget, because of the consolidations that you had to do with personnel. And the numbers were all over the place. And you had to think, oh, wait a minute, that's because, and you were able to figure it out, you know.
Yeah, it's all, yeah, we're getting close to a baseline, or reinstituting a baseline, more of the same coming, not more of the same changes, but more consistent, between FY21 and FY20. So hopefully we can reacclimate.
I just want to cut in on this one.
ahead.
The senior center outreach coordinator
Yes.
works more hours than the 18 hours or whatever that he's hired for. Is there a plan around that? Are the hours being increased, or what is the plan?
It's part of the study that I just referenced with Shrewsbury Youth and Family Services. But we know we need to do more outreach in that area. It's not in the FY20 budget, but we look to take an internal and internal and external approach to expanding those services. Yes.
Kevin, on communication, this town always had a problem with it, I felt, and I think it's improved immensely. The Facebook page, are you getting good feedback on that? I love it. I love to know that something's going on. I mean, I followed the airplane where, when they're going to do that, and I knew when they were going to do the spraying for the schools. I knew all that ahead of time, and I think that is so helpful. And I'm wondering if other people, are you getting feedback that?
Well, we get a lot of comments on Facebook.
Yeah, well,
But no, I'm just kidding.
That's on the town page.
Yeah. So, I think we see a lot of engagement. I can't say that a lot of people reach out and say, we're glad you have it, but I think we feel that because of the engagement. I think the recent Valerie Clemmy manages it for us. We shifted a lot of her responsibilities into that communication, and we put more resources in than just establishing the page, and she does a really good job at that. And we'll continue to do that. But I think, most recently, whenever we did the notification the other day about the second round of aerial spraying, it was shared by, over 66 people,
Right.
and viewed, several thousand times within the first few hours. And that's our goal. It's really to get the information out there. We know that's where a lot of people are, and so we want to be there and continue to update it. And, it wasn't the most favorite thing that I've done eating dinner any night, but, we're having trouble with trash. I was on there responding to comments, trying
Right.
to do our best to make people know that, we don't want it to go wrong either. And we'll live up to it when it's not going well. And Facebook was a great means of communication for us to say, here's the real information, this is what we're doing, we're working on it, and it's a good resource.
It's going to make your job easier. If the information's out there that this street is closed because they're paving it, people aren't going to be upset because they know ahead of time. So you're not going to get the phone call of,
Right.
why didn't I get a notice in the mail or something like that. I think communication is the key to success for businesses. And basically
Definitely
the town
us,
is a
yeah,
business.
Absolutely.
It's a business.
Definitely for the town. We have to, the more we communicate, the better we are. And
Right.
and we have a lot going on, a lot to communicate with. We don't need a lot of fluff on our posts, 'cause especially summertime with all the
Yeah.
construction projects. We got a lot
The
going
water issue was the problem. People felt they were in the dark, and I think that brought to light we needed to communicate a lot
Absolutely.
better.
Yep.
Again, I was lucky in my side of town, we didn't have much problem with the water. So I have no complaints there, as I don't have on trash. I'm lucky where I am, I guess. My final question for you is going to be, where do you see us in 5 and 10 years? You seem to be, you're not a man who seems to just look 2 feet in front of himself. You look down the road. So where do you think we're going to be?
I hope he's not looking in his rearview mirror.
No. We're looking forward for sure. I mean, I think we've had some long-term challenges that we haven't been able to solve in the water and communications areas and things like that. We're gonna solve those.
Right.
We're gonna get rid of the brown water. We're gonna get rid of the unaccounted for water questions, and we're going to plan. My vision is more community feedback and input. I would really like to see full visioning with the community helping us decide where we allocate resources and put priorities, communicating more to not feel that it's, town hall versus citizens petitions or citizens in general. That's not the environment that I think we work for. I call myself a servant leader.
Right.
I'm here only for the residents of the Shrewsbury to do what it is that they want us to do. That's my job, is to orchestrate all that. So I'd like to see us have a community vision and a comprehensive community plan. I'm not talking, we have a master plan, but
Right.
really an operations and organizational, strategic plan that has community input. I'd like to see a lot more interaction with the community, citizens academies, getting people more acquainted with local government. How can they participate? What should our role be in some of these things that they're calling gnarly issues? Opioid addiction, climate crisis. What should Shrewsbury as an organization be doing to help our residents? What is your vision for us to interact in those areas? It's not traditional local government, that's for sure. We always have to pick up trash, provide clean water.
Right.
We're always going to do that, but I think we have the opportunity to move from operating at a standard level to a higher level without increased resources. You talked about
Right.
the people we have. I'm looking to unlock some of that potential and give department heads the opportunity to be, have more planning, think more about the future, not just do what they did last year in October. Let's think about what we should be doing any time of the year and really moving forward.
Do you see us growing into a city, or do you see us, how
Yeah.
can we control our growth?
Yeah, I mean, I guess, we're always going to try to make sure that, I don't think we should stop growth, I'll be honest with you. I think one of the reasons Shrewsbury is as successful and productive and vibrant as it is because there's been growth, and that's always been kind of with the right amount of downward pressure on the growth to make sure it's sustainable and we can continue to provide services at adequate levels. So I think we'll always need to do that, but I don't think you ever want to get into a situation where it's you're not seeing new housing or redeveloped housing and things like
Right.
that. You lose vibrancy, you lose interest.
Is there a balance somewhere between the commercial and the
Yeah.
housing?
Yeah,
that
I mean,
we should be at?
I don't know if there's a strict number that comes off the top of my head, but I think that the Route 20 corridor, if you were able to bring that to its full potential over the next 15 to 20 years, we may see a shift of more 80-20 residential to commercial, where we're a little closer to 90-10 right now. And I think that would be very helpful because that's, less services, sometimes higher intensity services, but more defined areas versus a lot more front doors. So, but like I said, I don't think I'd ever be an advocate for no growth because those are the communities that you see struggle. I've been in communities here and in other places where they have declining school enrollments, and you feel that.
Right.
You feel it. Low expectations. Oh, it's just the town. It's good enough for us. That's not Shrewsbury.
Is Shrewsbury becoming unaffordable?
Yeah, I think it is in some ways. I think it's up to us to find that balance, especially in the housing market. It's certainly an expensive place to live, and we need to continue to promote the right mix of housing.
We don't, I don't know when you moved to town, but we moved into developments, little tiny developments. There was basically ranch houses. It was the guys that from World War II. And these were affordable houses that people could start on, and then they could move from there. I don't feel like we have that anymore, except for maybe the old homes that our parents grew up in, that we grew up in, not our parents owned. But I get a little frustrated, even for our age. What happens to us? Where do we go?
If you want to downsize, where do you go?
Where do we go?
So we have a new term that I'll share that I heard a couple weeks ago when we had the affordable housing meeting at the Board of Selectmen. They called it a millennial valley. It's because that demographic, that age group from, the mid-30s down to the mid-20s or early 20s at this point. We don't have that. That's our smallest population cohort across all years.
They don't want to own homes.
Yeah, and
for some reason.
But I think one of the things that people also recognize, though, is, and maybe it's not fair, just to say, well, then once you're successful or have more money, then you can come back. But a lot of people do recognize that value and find a way to come back. So I'm hearing that just as much. We're I don't want to predict the end of a great economic cycle, but I think we're getting back to the top of that overarching economic cycle where people are really saying, yeah, things are really expensive, and a natural, I don't want another great recession, but a correction to help us all out will make it easier.
Well, usually recessions occur on their own.
Right.
I mean, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. It's because everything does have to adjust. That's just normal. That's just normal.
Yeah, I get worried that we shouldn't talk federal government, but I get worried at the federal level they're too worried about going into recession anymore. We're going to, adjust the carburetor way too many times to keep it running too hot for too long and then blow up. The old car example.
I was thinking that. Prospect Park, that group did a great job.
Yeah.
Great service to the town.
A lot of good work, coordination with the town, and we need entities like that to help supplement the work that we're able to do in the budget.
Now, they were working to revitalize the historic gardens, which brings me to the graffiti on the pergola or whatever pillars are left standing up there. And I may have said this many times on this show, but the pergola got stolen, actually stolen. People that lived next to the library in that big white house, which is now, I think, a business property, took the pillars just because they wanted to and put them in their backyard. So they're sitting in the back right next to the library in that big white house. I think it's an Allen building.
I'm not sure.
And
I know what you mean, though.
On Main Street. If you're looking for the pillars to put them back where they belong, they're in that backyard. So that just irked me when it happened, and nobody really jumped on it. But what they did was, those aren't vandalized because they stole them and they made them beautiful, but they're not where they belong and they're not where they originated. And you had so much road work going on this summer that was actually a real positive for the town. But it's getting old. The magic was patience. But now you've got 3 to 4 months ahead of us on Lake Street, which that will be a great project when it's done.
Yeah, so we're wrapping up Main Street, starting Sunday night. What would Sunday's date?
The 15th.
The 15th at 10 p.m. Or 8 p.m. actually. We're going to start shutting down traffic and putting the final coat on Main Street, and that project will be wrapped up.
That's nice.
That
came out really nice.
Yeah, so that'll be wrapped up. That'll be a great relief. The work that the state's doing over 290 on 140 is going to continue for quite some time, but there's so many, all the main access points into the center has been clogged up this summer. Francis Avenue and Lake Street are now repaved, and they're looking very nice again.
Yes.
We're getting beyond that height of that construction season, and these multi-year projects like Main Street is wrapping up as well.
That's great.
We're pleased with it.
I don't want to run out of time before we talk about the fire department had an awards night. So a Lifetime Achievement Award went to Deputy Chief Bruce Card, who has since retired.
He has retired.
And the congratulations goes to Deputy Chief Seth Colby.
That's right.
And he was a captain, so the captain's position went to Sean Weigold. So there was a lot of movement within the fire department there. I have pages and pages here, but we had an Outstanding Firefighter Award go to Michael Borowitz, and he was the grant writer.
That's right.
Made a lot of grants. And we had 5 Academy graduates, Buffard, Abers, Jordan, Fillier, and Milos. Do they all have jobs within the fire department now?
Yes.
Oh, that's great. Because you also had retiring after 32 years, David Hodgeny.
Right.
And he was the outstanding, he got the Firefighter Achievement Award for Outstanding Public Educator, and he was first certified firefighter public educator around. And also Jimmy Pignataro retired. So you've had retirements, and the timing was great because they were coming out of the academy, so timing for that was pretty good. So I say congratulations to everybody for that. Do you have anything before I know I'm cutting in here?
No, that's all right. I got a lot in.
Nobody can get a word in edgeways. Beal Building Committee, they're making progress, and a lot happened over the summer. Usually summer's quiet and boring, and I'm like, I've got to keep up with this information.
Yep.
So they've addressed parking, wayfinding, envisioning,
The town center.
and
Yep.
with the town center study, and the Beal Building Committee overlaps with the town center project because of where they are. And you have an RFP out for Beal, is that correct?
It's about to, we're writing it right now. That's correct.
And is that also the Mass Development Grant, Real Estate Service
That's right.
Grant?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay.
So, if you haven't had a chance to take a look at Facebook, we do drone flyovers of the
I don't
Beal
have Facebook.
of the Beal site. Well, we can find another way to get them to you, but we do drone
You gotta get on,
flyovers a couple times or once a month at least. Lake Street, where it's closed, is gone. So even if you were to get around the cones, there's no road there to be on.
Wow.
And, it's very interesting. I got to walk the site yesterday. There's 5 excavators working. About a dozen dump trucks. It's transformed
Progress.
up there already. Yep.
Yeah.
And the buildings are almost all gone, and they said they've never seen foundations and rebar like that ever before.
Wow.
Wow. Wow. And I liked the Town Center study report where they talked about looking at the town's Shrewsbury Center as a like the big picture, globally looking at it, trying to bring people in. And I don't know. I think you're going to have magic to improve the traffic flow. But
Yeah, I don't know.
which brings us back to the Beal Reuse Committee, where they talk about what they want to do there. And I thought they had some good ideas around having a positive impact, both financially, culturally, for the town, and that they want to keep it New England style. Very important to preserve the memorial. And oh my word, we're running out of time. So anyways, I think that that committee's doing a really good job, and we're out of time. So I want to thank you, Michael, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.